What is up, you guys? Diggerdan here, coming at you with another video. Today, I'm doing my January wrap-up review. So, without further ado, let's dig into it. So, if you watched my January TBR video, then you know that there's 4 books I selected that I wanted to read for this month of January. And I did do that. And I actually got a couple extra. So, for this month of January, I did 6 out of my goal of 40 for the year. And so, I'm definitely ahead of schedule. Read a couple of these much quicker than I thought I was going to. So the first one that I read was Memory of Light, the last book in the Wheel of Time, and blew my socks off. Definitely my favorite book up to this point that I've read. Wheel of Time, which is such a special journey for me, and I'm so glad that I could be a part of the fandom and have enjoyed what is the Wheel of Time. And if you haven't read this and you're debating on the edge, I know a lot of people say the slog deters a lot of people, but personally, I didn't really experience the slog, and I was so excited to get deeper in the characters, deeper in the world, and so like books 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever the books people say the slog are, I personally didn't really feel that, and yeah, Brandon Sanderson did an amazing job in finishing the series, with of course Robert Jordan's notes. So yeah, definitely amazing book. This was the first one I read. Now the second one I read was Hyperion, written by Dan Simmons. And this one, I have a review on this one and on Memory of Light. I'll have a review on all these at some point. If you don't see it yet, then you will in the next couple of weeks. And this one surprised me a little bit. I know a lot of people say this is like one of their favorite science fiction books ever. And then it really falls off with the next book, ironically called The Fall of Hyperion. And I'm still excited to read that one, especially since this one has left me like with such a high, which I was, again, surprised about, especially after reading one of my, like, the pinnacle of fantasy, in my opinion, at least that I personally read. There's a ton of fantasy that I still haven't read, so take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, this one really surprised me, and I definitely recommend it if you are any fan of science fiction. But I will preface this with saying, I said this in my review too, that you really have to read the first 100 pages. Like if you're on the edge of DNFing it, like I was, after like 50, 75 pages, I'm like, what am I reading? What is this? Finish that 100 pages, finish that first chapter, and you will be hooked, and you will not want to put this book down. So yeah, book number 2 was Hyperion. Now, my next book I read was actually an ebook that I rented from Libby, the library app, which I'd recommend you use if you don't, and if you have a library card, no reason not to. And it is called Dark One by Brandon Sanderson. He technically came up with the story, but there's a different team of writers that actually came up with the dialogue and did the art and all those things. So it's a graphic novel by Brandon Sanderson. And it's the only entry in the series. Definitely it leaves it open-ended, like there's going to be more. And I'm hoping there are more. I did enjoy this. I didn't like it as much as I was expecting it to, but also I had no idea what it was, so it's good. There's a lot of world building built into it, and I don't really want to try to explain what it is because I feel like I won't do it justice, and I feel like that kind of gives away a lot of the story too. So this is one like I said, I got on Libby. So just get on Libby. I read it on my wife's iPad, because I usually when I do like ebook, like on Kindle or Libby, typically I'd read it off my phone. But this one, obviously, it's a graphic novel. You gotta look at pictures and stuff. And the iPad was a much better reading experience than my phone. So I've actually since then started reading a lot more of the ebooks on the iPad. So yeah, that one, it was decent. If you feel like you need to read all things Brandon Sanderson, definitely recommend giving it a go. That's how I found it. I was actually trying to find ebook for Memory of Light, so I could read that at work, so I didn't have to lug this between work and home. But unfortunately, my library didn't have it available. But in the search, even though I wrote Memory of Light, in the search, Dark One still popped up. So whatever, happy surprise. Like I said, I didn't even know it existed until I saw it pop up. So yeah, that is book number 3 out of the 6. All right, and then the 4th book I read is another physical. It is Lies of Locke Lamora. This one, again, blew my socks off. Really, most of the books I've read this month are really heavy hitters. as far as enjoyment wise. I've heard really, again, why I wanted to read this is because I've read or heard and saw really only good things being said about this book in this series. And Scott Lynch is such a good prose writer, honestly. Recommend this 100%. Another thing that kind of pulled me into it is something that people said about it was that it's kind of like Thieves Guild, but in the book, and it's more heist. I don't know. Like, so in the back of my head, I'm like, you know, when you play Skyrim or even Oblivion, you're in the Thieves Guild, and you're like doing all these quests, and you feel really cool. You're sneaking around. You kind of sort of get that with Lies of Locke Lamora, but it's more of a heist movie or book, I should say. It's more like Ocean's 11, Ocean's 9, well, all those different ocean books or movies, excuse me. But it's set in fantasy world, and it's got really cool magic system, and it's a really good book, so I definitely recommend it. So yeah, book number 4 out of 6. And then the last physical book I read, so book number 5 for the month of January, was Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End. And this one was really thin, which was good, because if it was any thicker, I probably wouldn't have finished it. I did not like this book. I was really hoping I would, because there were so many good reviews I saw. A lot of people said, oh, it's one of his best works. And this is my first book I read from Arthur C. Clarke, so I might not read more of him, at least not anytime soon. Like I said, it's just over 210 pages, and it's science fiction. It's like first contact aliens. It's basically like, what if aliens, like, not invaded Earth, but came and visited Earth and then helped set up government and things like that, and just kind of the outcome of what their goal is. And it was kind of dense prose. It was a little harder for me to like get into and read and enjoy. I fell asleep reading this book a lot, just on the couch. And there are some times where I could like only read 10 pages and I'm like, okay, I'm bored. And then I gotta like go do the dishes or like go catch up on laundry or something like that. And then come back and do another 10 pages. And it's like, so it was a lot of that going on. And at the end I just had to like do a sprint. I'm like, okay, there's like 50, 75 pages left. I just gotta finish it. Let's just do it. And I'm glad I finished it, because then I can say I read it. But I personally wouldn't recommend this unless you like love Arthur C. Clarke or you love alien stories. This one was written in the 50s too, so it's like older prose, older thing. So I didn't personally like it, and I wouldn't recommend this. If you want to hear more thoughts, I will, like I said, I will have a review on this one, but probably not for a week or two, because a lot of my reviews are backlogged a little bit. So eventually you'll see a review on it, but those are my opening thoughts. And then the last thing I read is another ebook. This is A Warrior's Path, written by Davis Ashura. This was one that Bryce from Shelf Centered, on one of his videos, mentioned that the author was giving away 12 or 13 of his books for free in celebration of his newest release coming out soon. So I snagged them all up, and I was excited because it does have a really cool magic system once I started reading it. And it's got like a caste system, because the author himself is India. His family's from India, or Indian, excuse me, and they're from India. And so it has a lot of like Indian-inspired roots and cultures and foods even, and things like that. So it was really cool and made me really excited to jump into it, because it's different than like your typical European medieval setting for fantasy, right? So I thought like jumping into it was pretty cool. But honestly, it was another one that kind of bored me a little bit. I think it was his first book he ever wrote, and it kind of shows a little bit. There's a lot of grammar stuff, a lot of prose that isn't great, a lot of things that keep getting repeated, and then you feel like you're beating a dead horse by the time the next plot point happens. So yeah, there's a lot of redeeming things. Like I said, the magic system is really cool, where it's like there's 7 different castes, and each caste is different, like, specialization in society. Like, for example, the Kuma, which is kind of like the main caste you follow for a lot of it. They're like the warrior caste, and then it's not chi, I forget what it's actually called. I think Jivita or something like that. I'll have it here on the screen. But they can like channel that. It's like their inner well or their inner energy, They can channel that, and then like the Kuma can like have faster reaction times, and the Kuma specifically can like link with other Kuma and create like a duo or a trio or a quad, and like they all kind of do things in unison, which is really cool. And then there's another cast where it's like their whole thing is commerce, or in like accounting and like making sure books, and so things like that. And another one is like the healers, and they're all the physicians. So it's like the music, like the world building is really good. That's definitely its strongest thing. But it's just there's a lot of world building, but it doesn't lead to much, if it makes sense. There's a lot of world building that could either be scaled down or could just be glossed over a little quicker. But I understand what he's trying to do. It's the first book in the series of I think 3 or 4 books. So eventually I might read book number 2, see if it gets a little better. But again, like the magic system is really cool, and the cast system is really cool. So, but yeah, so I didn't love it, but I got it for free, so can I really complain? Probably not. So yeah, that is the 6 books I read for January of 2024. And like I said, 6 out of 40. I'm sitting pretty good for the year. So what do you guys, have you guys read any of these books? If so, let me know in the comments down below what you thought about them. And what are you guys reading currently? What are you guys reading for February? Let me know. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like down below. Want to see more from me, Diggerdan, please hit that subscribe button as well as that bell notification icon. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.